mark. There's the spot. The kick is up. And Stephen Hauschka is true. Seahawks 13-12 over the Cowboys.
The Seahawks pull off the win in Jerry's World with a late field goal, as you just saw. A low-scoring affair, 13-12. Now, of course, Stephen A. had Seattle as his NFC Super Bowl pick. Skip, Dallas. Stephen A., how do you feel about your Super Bowl pick now?
I'm not comfortable with them. I think the offense needs to get going a little bit more. I mean, you've got Jimmy Graham, you've got beast mode. We've seen the addition of Rawls, who's been impressive. Obviously, Lockett is there. Not who got hurt, but
yeah.
The little Lockett.
The little Lockett. Little Lockett is there, and we wish nothing but the best for Ricardo Lockett, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But they've got the requisite weapons on the offensive side of the ball, even though there have been some issues with that offensive line. But because there's been issues with that offensive line, Russell Wilson entered yesterday's game being sacked more than anybody, and Marshawn Lynch hasn't appeared to be beast mode for more than one game this season, which was last week, more so than at any other time, even though we all know he missed a couple of games. In the end, when you look at it from that perspective, I must say that, I'm still not giving up on them because they've got time to right the ship. But the way they're looking right now, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. I think their defense is coming together more and more and more since Cam Chancellor has gotten back to sort of spearhead that defense. And I think that Richard Sherman is playing better than he did a few weeks ago. So let's throw that out there as well. And Kerry Williams is adapting to some degree in the secondary with the Legion of Boom. Earl Thomas, Bobby Wagner, and those boys are doing what they're doing. Bennett made a stupid penalty, almost cost the Seattle Seahawks yesterday because it gave Dallas some additional life with Wagner and them pointing at him, telling him to use his head. But ultimately, this defense is playing the way an elite defense is supposed to play. They can't carry the offense, however. Your offense can't be a walking 3 and out. What Russell Wilson was in that last drive to set up the winning field goal, running on a couple of plays, is what makes Seattle most effective offensively. Because when there's the threat of him running and he shows a willingness to utilize it, it makes everybody a bit cautious, and then you can take chances downfield that you otherwise can't take when he's not looking to run the football. Allow me, however, to get into the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
just a little bit. Just a little bit there.
Enjoy it.
I'm not going to make fun. This is not the day for me to do it because, again, Aaron Rodgers looked bad. The Giants looked awful. The Steelers lost. Yeah. So this ain't the day for that. And the Mets, yes, blew it, choked. But we'll get into that a little bit later, too. The reality, Skip, is this, and it's something that we have said a long time ago, but certainly haven't had a reason to say in the last year and a half, 2 years. Skip, I think Jason Garrett is a bit overrated. I think somebody needs to say this.
Whoever rated it.
Well, they were 12-4. They did win a division last year. He got a lot of credit, and we gave that to him. Skip, I watch him, and I consider him a front runner. And you know your man Omar Epps, the actor that was on here, we love him. He's a diehard Cowboy fan just like you are. He said the same thing. But it's like, listen, Jason Garrett's a front runner. When everything is right and all the personnel is there, he can help, he'll make sure you don't beat yourself. Yeah. But a good coach, if not a great coach, is supposed to be able to elevate you even when you don't have your requisite weapons. Now, you can't be what you are with Tony Romo. Yeah. But my goodness, you've been in position to win some of these games if you're the Dallas Cowboys. 2 games you had to lead in the fourth quarter. A couple of other games you were right there. And somehow, some way you've lost 5 straight. And Jason Garrett seems incapable of stopping the bleeding. And then I stood around and I watched again that whole Hardy explosion on the sideline from more than a week ago. And I see everybody getting in his face but Jason Garrett, who literally stood there and did nothing. And I just look at this guy and I'm like, there's something missing. I'm not saying the man doesn't know football. I would never accuse him of that. I'm just saying whatever that it factor is that you need from a head coach, he does not appear to have. Dallas actually should have won that game last night. And by the way, that wasn't a touchdown by Wilson, and I get that, but it was close enough where I can understand how the officials could give it to him, and to me, they would have scored anyway from that position. So it's no big deal. That's all I got to say.
Finished?
Yep.
Is the show over yet? That was a long answer.
I didn't think it was, but go ahead.
All right. There's a two for one.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't nearly as long as you starting off the show talking about Aaron Rodgers.
That was some rich stuff. That was some material.
Yeah. You're allowed to bring it once every 6 months. Go ahead.
To your Jason Garrett point,
right.
What he does best is he claps. He backslaps. He pushes the guys like for fun when they come off the field, like way to go. You know, he's a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Right. Seriously, he's like a male cheerleader, like the Texas A&M male cheerleaders. They're great. I love to watch them, but I don't want him coaching my team, especially.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't knock you.
Here's what's funny about what you just said. I am more up on your Seahawks than I am on my Cowboys. Where I liked them yesterday. I thought they were good. I thought when Russell Wilson needed to make some plays, he converted 3 straight big third downs. Not easy. And got him down in position to win the football game with a field goal. I admired that about him. And that defense, it's rounding back into form. You got to admit, it's formidable now, right?
Yeah.
Richard Sherman was really good. I would like to see Richard Sherman against a 100% healthy Des Bryant being thrown to by Tony Romo, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
Maybe God help us, we'd see that somewhere down the, maybe in the postseason. But I'm about to give up on my postseason chances here because we have gone from the castle to the outhouse, have my Cowboys. I was trying to do it the other way around, but now we have gone to the outhouse. That's 5 straight losses. It's tearing my soul out game after game. That was excruciating. I knew it was coming. I picked the Seahawks, and not once in that whole game did I ever really believe my Dallas Cowboys would win that game. And yet they teased me and they pulled me along, and I had to sit and wait all the way to the bitter end for another kick me in the stomach kind of a loss. My point is, in the end, and I tweeted this yesterday, and I'm not joking about this, Matt Castle made me miss Brandon Weeden.
I laughed when I read that
I'm
on my timeline. I did laugh.
But I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm ready to say maybe we should have just stayed on the Weeden. Just stayed on the Weeden. Right. I don't know. Because Matt Castle was almost as bad as Mr. Rodgers was in the late game. He was. He threw for 97 yards. Aaron Rodgers, 77 yards. But still, it felt inept the whole day. It felt like we had no shot the whole day with Matt Castle, even though I know he tries to throw the ball down the field a lot more than Brandon Weeden did. It's like he's throwing a Nerf football. It's like he's throwing a baseball changeup where the arm motion is fast and the ball comes out with no velocity. I'm saying, what was that, a slip pitch? What was that? Because the ball just hangs in the air like a punt. I get why Buffalo said, you know what, we're going with Tyrod here. Because we were up at the camp, I really thought, well, they'll just try to get Matt Castle to be a caretaker, game manager. But they said, no, he's pretty much washed up, and he looked washed up to me yesterday. My defense did hang in pretty well. I will give him that, except when it was time to make a play, they couldn't make the play. And finally, obviously, for the first time in 5 games, somebody forced a turnover. Way to go, Greg Hardy. Bats the ball up in the air, intercepts it. And then what happened? Greg Hardy let the 5'10" quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks tackle him, drop him like a big sack of potatoes, tackle him around. Look at this. He tackles Greg Hardy. Do you realize
Super Bowl winning quarterback?
Yeah, okay, this is it. He tackles him. Stephen A., he's going to score because beast mode's coming behind him, but I don't think he would have caught him. I just don't think he would have caught him.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Why you treat Greg Hardy like he's a running back?
Here's what I thought. You know why? At that moment, I wanted some of the special team players to run up to him and get in his face. You let the little quarterback, the shortest quarterback in football tackle you?
First of all,
that's what I wanted.
First of all, this isn't basketball where he's a center and you're trying to defend him and block his shot. This is football. It doesn't matter what your height is when it comes to a tackle.
Hey.
You ever see them legs on Russell Wilson? He's not some little miniature small dude. No matter how big Greg Hardy. Let me tell you, he got massive legs, okay? That's number one.
Number Greg Hardy not massive?
Number two, Greg Hardy sat up there and tapped the ball and then came down and tried to run, but Russell Wilson was already practically at his legs. Number 3, he's a defensive tackle. He's not a
stiff arm.
Defensive end.
Stiff arm.
Again,
run through him.
Russell Wilson, that's ridiculous.
Run through him.
The fact is, Russell Wilson's relatively short. Look at his legs. What's he supposed to do?
Cost him 4 points and effectively. Okay, I'll give it up to Russell Wilson. Right. I'll flip it around and do positive Russell. Right. He saved the game for the Seahawks.
That's all.
Because if Greg Hardy scores, that's +4 because obviously Matt Castle stalls and we have to kick the field goal. 4 points. It was huge in that game. So,
well, let's also not forget this. Marshawn Lynch gets tackled out of bounds. You don't get tackled out of bounds. Dallas Billy
still had no shot. They had no shot. I never thought I had a shot.
He gave them like an additional 40, 45 seconds, which wasn't smart on his part.
Okay, you could have given him 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and Matt Castle could not have gotten the ball even in field goal position. So the point is, look, Dez came back. We both thought it was a little prematurely. He did not look 100% confident pushing off the surgically repaired foot. To me, he just didn't look it.
Right.
So even with Dez, and it lifted, it obviously inspired the team, and they hung in, blah, blah, blah. But now, can Matt Castle beat Sam Bradford next Sunday at Jerry World? I don't know. I hope so, but I wouldn't bet a nickel on it right now.
Depends what Eagles team shows up.
Okay, but it's going to come down to that for my Cowboys.
I would remind you, once again, we get back to Jason Garrett, because when Jason Garrett took over for the Cowboys, if you recall, Tony Romo was out and John Kitna was your quarterback. All right, Tony Romo's rating at that particular
time wasn't bad.
I know he wasn't bad. What I'm trying to say is that you went 5-3 without Romo before in the past. You had John Kitna. This time with Whedon, and let me say this to you. I think Brandon Whedon's getting a bad rap. I repeat. The Dallas Cowboys, think about it. You had the lead against the Atlanta Falcons. You were tied in overtime, and that was a defensive miscommunication. Okay. Brandon Whedon.
So would you put him back in next week?
Yeah,
would you go with him?
Why not? What do you have to lose? Because, Matt Castle's not, again, like
everything
you just said,
to gain.
I would put Brandon Whedon back in there this week. Why not? Because I got to tell you, I thought he got a bad rap. I never thought that he should have been taken out. It just didn't matter whether he did or didn't, because it's the Cowboys. But the flip side to it is that if you're Brandon Whedon, it was not his fault that they lost those games.
Yep.
It was not his fault.
All right. And he did throw a late touchdown pass at the Eagles.
He threw an interception against Atlanta, but they had a lead at that time. Now, it sparked their comeback, but you still, even after they scored off of, once they intercepted them and then drove downfield, you still had a lead. So in the end,
they were up 28-17 at halftime.
And 21-7 prior to that. So the point is, Brandon Whedon put them in positions to win, and there were other factors that contributed to them losing. They should have never taken him out to begin with. That's the point.
But he was playing not to lose instead of to win.
Well,
at least Matt Castle
but when has Matt Castle ever played to win?
I was. He'll throw it down the field. Brandon Whedon wouldn't throw it down the field to anybody.
Maybe they weren't open.
You have two quarterbacks. You have none. Bottom line, you need Romo back.
That is correct.
Seattle's starting to look a little bit like Seattle again. The Royals win their first championship in 30 years, but did the Mets give the title to Kansas City? We'll